significant step forward, but I still think that there is a lot that still needs to be done. It's not just seat sharing, but it is actually more fundamental things.
I'll come to those in a moment's time.
And just to, if you...
Sure,
yeah.
I'll come to those in a moment's time. But first, Shaina NC, let me put this to you. Suddenly, two parties that were unable to merge, unable to agree on a leadership, have decided to get together and they've agreed on a leader. Do you accept that whereas you might have expected easy-going polls in Bihar, you're now facing a real challenge and you may have actually problems winning?
I don't believe that at all, and I'll tell you why. Please believe that Bihar for the first time was above caste equations in politics when the BJP was in alliance and in government. The kind of development done by our leadership is something which has been substantiated by the number of MLAs we have, the highest number of MPs.
You have never been in power in Bihar, so what claim to development in Bihar are you taking?
Well, the time that we did have our alliance in government, I don't think the people of
But the Chief Minister was Nitish.
And that is the only reason.
But the Chief Minister was Nitish. If there is development done that can be claimed, he'll claim it.
Was ours. The Deputy Chief Minister was ours, and post that, Karanji, in the Lok Sabha elections, the fact that we have had 22 of our MPs elected in itself is testimony to the fact that people wanted
yes,
good
but look what
governance,
happened in the by-polls in September.
Leadership,
look what happened in the by-polls in September.
I think the fact, I'm coming to a couple of points. Number one, that the untouchables or the so-called foes.
No, let's not go into
politics,
fragmented detail at this moment. Just tell me something. Do you refuse to accept that the coming together of these two parties with a clear leader in Nitish poses a challenge to you? Give me an answer to that. We'll come to details later.
I don't think that the people of Bihar would want to go into this kind of politics again. They would definitely want the model in the center replicated in the state, where the state gets into development mode completely vis-a-vis infrastructure, job opportunities, and whatever Prime Minister Narendra Modi has as a vision plan for Bihar. I think we have a great leadership.
Let's leave it there, Shaina. We'll come to polemics later. Let's take those party political lines later. Let's concentrate on facts. Let's come, Manoj Jha, to some of the critical issues that have at best perhaps only been papered over. And I'll start with the leadership issue. Although Lalu Yadav has unequivocally said Nitish will be leader, just 6 days ago on the 2nd, Raghuvansh Prasad Singh said that RJD has several CM candidates of his own, and then he added, projecting Nitish as CM would be suicidal for any alliance. Now, what's happened to that viewpoint? I haven't seen Raghuvansh Prasad Singh take back his words.
Karan, in any party, including my party, including BJP, including Congress, the test of democracy is that people have the freedom to speak their mind. But the fact is, in fact, 5 days ago, Laluji said that don't make public statement on alliance, on merger, and he meant all those statements when he said that. Number one. Number two, you know, there are competing viewpoints, but ultimately, when you start stitching something big, when you have a bigger canvas in your mind, you don't look at these minor software issues. That the most important fact is that we were keen to have an All India Alliance. All India Alliance, I re-emphasize, not only in Bihar, All India Alliance, beginning with Bihar, which gives a kind of note to Modi ji kind of politics, whereby I would find people and communities on the margin are always in the perpetual custody of the movement of sensex.
Let's stick to the leadership issue.
Custody of sensex.
Manoj Jha, let's stick to the leadership issue and the discordant voices in your party. Pavan Verma is joining us. He speaks for Nitish. Pavan Verma, let me put this to you. Many people believe that Lalu hasn't actually voluntarily and willingly embraced Nitish as the leader. He's done it under a certain measure of pressure. First from Rahul Gandhi, who made clear his preference for Nitish, and then probably from Mulayam Singh, who lent on him. Now, you know better than me, there are still 3 or 4 months before the polls in Bihar are held. Many think that could be ample time for Raghuvansh Prasad Singh to change Lalu's mind. Are you worried that as you come closer to the polls, Lalu might wriggle out of the commitment he gave this afternoon that he supports Nitish as CM candidate?
Karan, I'll answer you honestly. I believe that period is over, and I believe the commitment made by Mr. Lalu Prasad ji today is unequivocal and categorical. So I don't believe there is any doubt on that score.
All right. Maybe you're right. Abhishek Singhvi, even if he is right, the question arises whether RJD workers and RJD members, and not just Raghuvansh Prasad Singh, will be so willing to accept Nitish as party leader. After all, today, at his press conference, Lalu ji made a point of appealing to his own party and his workers to unite behind Nitish. And he added that he wanted them to disregard any doubts the press may raise. So even if Lalu supports Nitish, will the rest of the RJD and its workers and cadres support Nitish? And will they make their best efforts to get him elected?
As you know well, Karan, all coalitions everywhere and in every situation are matters of compulsion. They are not the first choice of any party. They are not the ideal. Coalitions are necessary because of a variety of reasons, and when you have a coalition you realize that you must curb a lot of your natural desires and tendencies. There are going to be people who are going to lose out some areas where they think they are strong. There are going to be people who will have to make compromises in even giving up their candidature. This is a normal part of coalition, which is why what you see as seat bargaining is seen as by others as breaking points. I think the principle has to be agreed to. And today, in a sense, yesterday and today has been very, very important because principles have been agreed to. Thereafter, individual ambitions and aspirations will have to be curbed and will be curbed, as happens in all coalitions.
You know, Vandita Mitra, you heard a very philosophical answer there from Abhishek Singhvi, not the sort of normally combative one that he gives. I want to go on to put something else too. It's not just within the RJD at senior and lower levels that people may have doubts about whether Lalu will be able to convince the party to stand behind Nitish. What about Lalu's support base in the Yadav and Muslim communities? Arguably, Muslims in Bihar might not have a realistic alternative to Nitish, but is there a danger that Yadavs might choose this moment to experiment with the BJP instead?
Karan, you've actually put your finger on the problem. The problem is that these parties, like Mr. Singhvi said, that principles should be clear. Now, the only clear principle for these parties to come together seems to be anti-BJPism. Now, we have avowedly anti-BJP parties coming together, but there is no avowedly anti-BJP vote bank cutting across castes on the ground, except in the Muslims. All the other castes, the BJP has made inroads. The BJP has made inroads in the Mahadalits already. It has Paswan on its side, and it may yet get Majhi on its side as well. The BJP has also made inroads in the EBCs. It has Kushwaha with them, and it may, it has been holding EBC Sammelans. Even in the last bypolls, I think the number of EBC Sammelans held by the BJP were more in number than by the other parties. So you are assuming that there is an anti-BJP vote out there waiting to be consolidated. That may not be a very realistic presumption.
Absolutely. So what you're really saying to me is that despite the fact they've agreed on a common leader, and we still have to tackle whether they can agree on suitable seat sharing, but despite all of that, they may not be able to deliver the vote, because the vote is not avowedly anti-BJP, even though these people themselves may be. Is that right?
Yes, except in the Muslims. In all the other sections in the Bihar electorate, there is no great avowedly monolithic anti-BJP vote that is waiting to come together and rally behind these people.
Shaina NC, what you've heard
that
from
work needs to be done.
Absolutely. Shaina NC, what you've heard from Vandita Mishra may well sound like music to your ears, but there is a flip side. And the flip side is, in fact, the vote share, which was witnessed in the May national elections of last year. The JDU, RJD in Congress together had a vote share of 45.06%. The NDA, that's the BJP and its two allies, were just 39.4. In other words, the Janata Parivar alliance has a vote share lead of almost 6%. That is what loads the dice against you. That must worry Mr. Amit Shah, regardless of what silver linings he sees around this Janata Parivar cloud?
I'd just like to add one point to what Vandita ji said. She said that, about the vote banks, and I think 2014, especially Lok Sabha, was one election which was testimony to the fact that people really didn't vote on caste, creed, community. They voted for strong leadership, stability, good governance, etc. And we haven't failed them in any way. You can never equate a by-election with an assembly election or a Lok Sabha election, Karanji, and you know better than me that in Bihar the permutation combination is not just about alliance that has come together to gang up against BJP. It is what BJP has done in the center and what we did in the state and what we continue to do as a vision plan for the voter in Bihar. And today the voter is highly intelligent. They're not going to get swayed by arch enemies coming together for, convenience politics, which is still not arrived at vis-a-vis what the roadmap ahead is. They're thinking about how their lives are going to be empowered, how they are going to benefit out of an election. And BJP offers that stability at the center and in the state. So I think that in the days to come, Bihar will be a litmus test for us as well. And we're taking it extremely seriously.
I can see Pavan Verma wants to interrupt.
And I'm sure it is.
I can see Pavan Verma wants to interrupt. Go ahead, Pavan Verma.
In fact, Karan, I would say that the impression I have gained from the ground is that there's a great difference between the 2014 parliamentary election, when Mr. Narendra Modi very effectively rode an anti-incumbency mood of 10 years against the UPA government, and it was a parliamentary election, and he was the prime ministerial candidate, and to top it up, the opposition was almost totally divided. Now, what has changed in this 1 year is that there is almost in every segment of society a varying degree of disappointment between the promises made and the deliverables. And in particular, in the largest voting constituency cutting across caste line, which is the farming community, there is a great disillusionment and
that's
even
what you're
anger.
banking upon. And that's what you're banking upon.
And secondly, I know I want to say that I am not banking upon. It is what the BJP government and the NDA government should have delivered. And this has had an impact in Bihar as well. Jobs for youth, middle class angst, farming community. There has been, Delhi government elections, Karan showed it, and you can read the newspapers and see what has changed in this 1 year.
That's a fair point.
So it is not that the NDA, the BJP government this time is riding a wave in its favor. That's point number one. Secondly, the opposition which was divided is united. And united after a long process of negotiation.
Hang on. I'm going to stop you there. Pavan Verma, I'm going to stop you there because that's the point I want to contest, and I want to begin with Manoj Jha, and I'll come back to you and to Abhishek. This claim that you're united may be true because you've managed to get Lalu to declare Nitish Kumar as the leader of the party, even though we don't know whether Raghuvansh Prasad Singh agrees with him or not, and we don't know whether this will continue to be the case 2 and 3 months down the road. But there's another problem that you haven't as yet sorted out, and that's the problem of seat sharing. Now, it was perfectly made clear by Raghuvansh Prasad Singh just 6 days ago that he wanted the seat sharing done on the basis of the 2014 national elections, when your party, Manoj Jha, the RJD, stood first or second in 145 segments. This is unacceptable to JDU because their tally in terms of first and second was just 43. Now today, are you standing by that formula, or are you prepared to lower your claim and be more accommodating?
No, Karan, it's not about lowering it's all about looking for a candidate in each constituency who represents the ideas we share, and as also the winnability factor.
I'm going to interrupt you. When you say looking for a candidate in each constituency, if that candidate had to have come first or second last time round, then it is going to be your candidate, not Nitish's. So I ask you again, are you just finding a different way of camouflaging the old position, or are you going to drop the number of seats you want for RJD?
No, Karan, let me say, for us, winnability is most important factor. We'll look at 2014, we'll look at 2010 election, but we'll not be captive to that. Number one. Number two, Karan, I was listening to your discussion with everybody. You know, this alliance or merger or possibility of merger, please don't look at through the optical images of leaders coming together.
I'm not. I'm going beyond it. I'm now looking at it in terms of your inability to agree on seat sharing. That's why I'm asking you these questions. And when you say winnability, that seems to me once again like camouflage for saying RJD in these 145 segments where you were 1 and 2.
Karan, the social constituencies, the support base we have with the JDU or RJD, they have made us agree to this alliance. Please understand.
Well, no, just a moment. Just a moment. I'm not. I don't know. You're moving away to talk about other people putting pressure on you to get you to agree. Let's bring in one of those other people, Abhishek Singhvi. Abhishek Singhvi, today's Business Standard claims that in fact your party Congress has proposed a formula to Nitish when you met him yesterday that RJD and JDU should contest 100 seats each. That leaves 43, of which Congress will lay claim to 35, leaving 8 for other allies like the NCP. What sort of response did Mr. Gandhi get from Nitish Kumar? Does Nitish Kumar show a willingness to settle for 100 himself? Because if he doesn't settle for 100, Lalu won't settle for 100. So answer that for me.
Karan, you know very well that nobody on this panel is going to disclose to you the actual dialectics of the figures. It is also well known to you that it is common ground in any coalition that you ask for more and you settle for less. This is a standard practice of bargaining for seats. That's a given for every election, for every political party in India. Having said that, let me tell you, the Congress is the most realistic and the most accommodative in this whole thing. It is true that we have limited time and therefore we realize that while Akla Chalo is the ideal situation in a place like Uttar Pradesh or Bihar, we have to be accommodative so as to prevent the anti-farmer policies and the division of the vote.
Okay.
So, without disclosing to you the specifics, let me tell you, our job is twofold. One is to keep our figures within the reasonable zone, which will not be a breaking point. But secondly, as you've seen just now, and this is proof of making sure that the others also curb their expectations and aspirations to reasonable figures.
In fact,
because
that's
this cannot
the second
be a breaking
important
point
thing.
now. The principle is agreed.
That's the important thing. And let me bring in Pavan Verma. You see, the important thing is to somehow find a formula that curbs RJD and JDU ambitions to a point where they converge. In 2010, you contested with the BJP as your allies 141 seats, of which you won 115. There's no way you could contest 141 with Lalu as your ally this time round. How low are you prepared to go to secure an amicable deal on seat sharing?
Karan, I'll give you again an honest answer. Because, as you have rightly stated, this is a complex issue which needs to be settled between the two parties. A committee has been set up with 3 members from each party.
Committees usually are a way of avoiding decisions in India, not a solution.
No. It's not that. Decisions are made incrementally, and a political resolve at the highest level to find a solution helps rather than hinders. And in the seat sharing, it will be taken up constituency-wise. What is important is that a message has come from the highest level that you must find solutions in order to be able to counter the anti-people policies of the BJP government. Now, that's a simple message.
Well, no, that the message is simple. The implementation is what I'm talking about. Vandita, let me bring you in. There's a real sense, Vandita, in which the decision about who would be leader for the alliance was an easy one to take because Lalu could not have done that job himself. And he was well aware that his wife and his family would not be acceptable. So in a sense, it didn't cost him very much to opt out because he really couldn't lay claim. When it comes to seat sharing, it could be very different. And if you go by this formula of winnability which Manoj Jha kept talking about, that could be just camouflage for insisting that RJD should get more seats because RJD had more people at 1 and 2 positions in 2014. Will seat sharing prove to be the stumbling block?
seat sharing will prove to be a stumbling block because there are two issues here. It is not just the number of seats that each party gets, but also which seats. You know, it's also the choice of seats, which will be a constant stumbling block. But I just want to say something, taking off from what Mr. Verma said. He said that the Lok Sabha election was a different kind of election from the assembly election. He's absolutely right. But I think this whole chain of events started with a misreading by his leader, Mr. Nitish Kumar, of the Lok Sabha election. He got spooked. And that is where this whole thing starts. I think if he had stayed his course and went it alone for the assembly elections, he would have had a very bright chance.
Okay, you may be right, but that is a counterfactual, so we don't know the answer to. But you know, Shaina NC, there's not much comfort the BJP can take from the fact that seat sharing could be a major problem between the RJD and JDU, because you're having very similar problems with your allies. Both Ram Vilas Paswan and Mr. Kushwaha want far more seats than your party is prepared to concede. So when we come to this issue of seat sharing being a debilitating factor, it's as much a problem for you as it is for your opponents. There's no comfort here for you.
Plus many chief ministerial candidates.
Quite right, and that's an additional problem. He's absolutely right in pointing it out.
In fact, I was going to add that one point. That the opposition, I mean, that's the RJD, JDU, there's so many aspiring chief ministerial candidates.
No, the point was being made against you, Shaina. The point was being made against you. Don't return the compliment and deflect it.
No,
but come back to my point. Seat sharing is as much a problem for you as it is for them. You can't get any comfort out of this.
Currently, look at our strike rate last time and look at our performance of our MLAs.
Look at your strike rate in September.
I'm sure that whether it's Ram Vilas Paswan or our party or the other smaller allies that choose to align with the NDA are going to absolutely be based on their approachability, their transparency and their performance as MLAs. And trust me, our analysis, like all other political parties, is based on the merit and the performance of the leader. And I think times have changed. The voter is absolutely aware. They want to move beyond caste, creed, community.
I'm going to have to end it there, Shaina. I'm going to have to end it there, and I'm going to remind you of that wonderful phrase. You say times have changed. The French say, plus ça change, plus c'est la même chose. The more times change, the more they remain the same. That could hit you very hard this time round. My thanks to all of my guests for joining me, and there we end this particular episode. If you haven't, thanks for watching. Goodbye. Good night.